Hello and welcome to another video. It's the end of a month, so we know what that means. It's what I read in July. I can't believe we are in July already. This year is just flying by. It's ridiculous. So by a few months, we'll already be at the end of the year, it feels like. But yeah, so I read 3 books in July. So let's get on with it. Let's see what I read. The first book I read actually has an interesting story to it of how I read this book. So last month I went for a job interview, and while I was waiting, like in between, so I'd had my interview and I was waiting in between for like my written task, so I had about half an hour to kill. There was a bookshelf and I picked up one of the books. I thought I'm going to read something while I wait to try and just ease my mind a little bit. And I got 4 chapters in, and long story short, I got offered the job. And then as a celebratory present, my mum bought me this book so that I could finish the story, because I was intrigued. I'd read 4 chapters. I wanted to see what else was going to happen in this book. And this book is Breaking Point by Adele Coffey. So this was an author I'd never heard of, so had no idea what sort of book she wrote. And this was quite a different book for me, to be fair. One that I would not probably have picked if I had seen it in the shop. And it's about a very well educated doctor called Susanna, and I can't say too much, but this book is basically about baby loss. So it's quite heavy on that subject, so it might not be for everybody, but it's about a doctor called Susanna who loses her baby, not going to say how, and there's a lot that goes on with court cases, and is she going to get in trouble for this? Was it lack of care? There's quite a lot there, but I can't tell you really what happens because that's the whole part of the book. There's also another person in this book called Adelaide, who is the reporter. So he's reporting about this child loss because the doctor is quite famous. She's wrote a book, and so she's in the public eye. So she works for like a reporting company. But then it has a lot of Adelaide's backstory in there, which is very interesting and quite relevant as well to the rest of the plot. So yeah, it was enjoyable. It wasn't sort of the book I expected it to be just from reading it the first time for the first 4 chapters. Like I say, it was very heavy on court case, so probably about halfway through it goes through all the court and all like the questions asked in court and all that sort of thing. But it was interesting because I've never read a book like that before, and I am trying to read different things. It was very well written. You did feel for the characters that you were meant to feel for, and you did hate the characters you were meant to hate, so that always shows me that it's a well written book. Yeah, I gave this one, I want to say 4 stars. I think there were a few errors, like grammatical errors that I found along the way, which is very irritating. But yeah, I sort of guessed what was happening a little bit, and it had a nice ending, which I always find is an extra bonus. So yeah, Adele Coffey, Breaking Point, not much I can say about it. That was book 1 of July. Book 2 of July was a follow-on from a book I've previously read by this author, and it's Bob Mortimer, The Hotel Avocado. So back in, I want to say February, it might be my March video, might be, maybe a little bit later, but back earlier in the year I read The Satsuma Complex, which is the first one of this series, and this is back with Gary Thorne and Emily, who we meet in the first book at some point. It's a lot bigger than the first one. The first one's quite a short story. Now this one, I enjoyed it. It was about Gary and Emily, and Emily's gone down to Brighton and is setting up a hotel, and it's like a family left from their family, and she's putting her own spin on it. And then Gary's back home doing his job in London and gets sort of this weird person that comes into his life trying to blackmail him, because it links to the previous story. So I'm not going to say what or who or why. It links to the previous story, which you will need to read. And then he tries to escape, and yeah, basically goes on the run, and him and Emily are trying to navigate this. Great story. I love Bob Mortimer, like I said before. It's Bob Mortimer's pure humour of the character descriptions, the way things are talked about. It's really good. The only thing I would say about this is it's definitely not as good as the first book, and I think the first book has that mystery a little bit more. So in the first book, it's Gary's met a girl and he wants to find who this girl is, and there's a lot of backstory about her life and how she's come to where she is. This one, you obviously know the characters, and there's not as much mystery. There is a mystery, but I feel that the mystery isn't as heavily the point of the story. The point being of this story is Emily setting up the hotel and she's trying to get stuff sorted for that, and Gary's sort of like, do I come and live with her, do I not? And then the neighbour's involved, but then there's a new character that comes in. So there's more of that side, and then the mystery and like the villain, it all sort of wraps up in the last sort of 50 pages, which I don't always like in books because it's kind of like a slow build up and then all of a sudden very, very quick at the end. But nonetheless, it was enjoyable. I did enjoy the story, and there's like in between chapters, there's like a little bit of an anecdote from a certain character that you don't know who it is right until the end, and then when you find out who it is at the end, it's like typical Bob Mortimer. Why did we not guess that to start with? So I'd love a book sort of based on that. Next, I know he's done The Long Shoe, which is a different character, but I would love to read The Long Shoe at some point. But yeah, this was still good, but not as good as the first one, which I've seen a lot online of people saying it wasn't as good. I hate to agree, but it is true, but it's not a bad book. It just doesn't flow the same as the first one. But yeah, still great. I still recommend the series. Especially if you love Bob Mortimer's humour, then this is the book for you. So my second book of the month was The Hotel of a Crab. And the final book, I feel like, again, these videos get shorter, but I don't like spoiling books too much. But this was another follow-on from a series. I've done a few follow-ons this month because it came out and I thought, I'll read it. It's come out and I've got it on pretty much the day it's come out. So back in January, February again, I read A Serial Killer's Guide to Marriage. So now I've read the second one, which is Not Like the Other Parents, or if you're in America, it's called Self-Help for Serial Killers, which I actually think is a better title than this title, but this is the UK title. I don't know why it changed, but it doesn't seem to have the same sort of feel to the book, but never mind. So we are back with Hazen Fox in this one, and this one carries on a year from the first one. So again, you need to read the first one. It's a year later, they've been to Italy, they've come back, and now somehow they've got themselves in a bit of a pickle with someone called the Chameleon, but we don't know who the Chameleon is or what he wants, and they're trying to protect their children because there's an extra child now in this one, and they're trying to figure out who this Chameleon is, who's he working for. So they're sort of going around looking at different areas where they think he might target, or asking people or meeting people and trying to see if they'd work for him. So that's sort of what happens in there. They've also got their friend Jenny, who we meet in the first book, who is now part of their team, which again, if you spoiler alert, if you've read the first one, that's kind of how that things happen in the first one. So there's all that going on. There's also family life going on. There's a bit of humour in there. There's flashbacks in there. It's very well done. It's one of these books where it keeps you guessing, but it's very sort of light-hearted at the same time. So like there's not a lot of crime in this one. I feel like in the first one there was more people that died, whereas in this one it's kind of like there's not many deaths, but they're trying not to get themselves in that situation. So it's more like they've more like matured a little bit, but they still want to kill, but at the minute they're in a position where they can't, because if they kill then the Chameleon will know where they are. So there's all that going on, and then there's a school side with their first child, BB, who's in school. So there's like school mum groups and being called in by the teacher to talk about their child and like events. So there's also that side of life. So there's so many different bits of it that go on. But it's really good. I actually preferred this one to the first one. Like the first one was really, really good. I enjoyed it, which is why I read this one. But I enjoyed this one more purely for the plot. I think the plot was better in this one. I think it was a bit more fast paced. There was definitely more things that you needed to sort of think about in this one, and it left you guessing more. There wasn't as much death. I mean, I don't mind a book with lots of deaths in, but I don't want it to be overkill either. So there wasn't as much in this one. So you got to see more of the characters' sort of lifestyle and personalities and them as a couple, because again in the first one there's a bit more tension. So yeah, there's loads in here, and it was a great read. I love Aisha Maki, and I would love to check out her other books that she's written, because I know she's written another like 2-series book. So I would love to check those out. I'm not sure if she's wrote any more. I don't know if there's any more coming. But yeah. So yeah, Not Like the Other Parents was my third read of the month. I feel like I don't read a lot in a month, but me a few years ago would probably only read one book, and it would take me 2 or 3 months. So 3 books a month for me is a massive improvement. I feel like my reading speed has definitely improved. So we'll see where August takes us. I have started my August book because it is nearly 1,000 pages. It's very long. So I don't know, like I've said before, I don't know if it will be that I do an August and September read video together, or whether I can squeeze in maybe 2 books for August. 3 books, maybe pushing it. But I'm getting through this one at quite a good speed so far. So we're just going to see. I've got time off work, so I've got plenty of time to get through this book. And like I said, I wanted to speak about this series because it's one of my favourites, but I haven't read one of these for 2 years, I think, and I'm still about 3 books behind, but they're amazing. So that'll be coming in my next video. So that's a little bit of a teaser for August reads. But I don't know, like I say, it might, if I don't upload in August, it's because it'll be an August and September one together. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to do an August one, even if it's just maybe for the one book. Let me know if you would want me to rather do a video on one book that's quite big with lots of detail. Let me know, or would you rather me put it where it's more than one? I will leave that down to you if anyone would like to let me know. But thank you again for watching. I can't believe, like I said, that we're at this point again in the month. I love making these videos at the minute. I feel like it's really easy to manage. It keeps me motivated, and yeah, it's the content that I am enjoying watching myself as well at the minute. Please let me know if you would like anything different. Like, would you like me to talk about music? Because I used to do that back in the day. TV shows. I will still keep doing vlogs when I do things, but at the minute I'm not really doing a lot. But vlogs will still happen. But yeah, let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and you would like to see more of my videos. And I'll see you hopefully in the August video. Bye guys.